we are doing everything we can. Pina-fast track ko. Para hindi ako makalimutan, I have decided to declare a state of calamity. So, I will sign it now. Yasan yung papel. So yun. Then I'm flying to tomorrow. Balik ako doon. There are many regions in the country were battered by Typhoon Odette in the past days. The National Disaster Risk and Reduction Management Council. Ito ang hindi ko talaga kaya that's why kahapon mga ano na lang nila itong opisina na ito para sa akin. Sino bang gumawa nito? Itong National Disaster Risk Reduction Management kasi. Hindi ko every meeting, hindi ko memorize. Sinasabi ko lang, yung risk disaster teams. So, the NDRRMC, even sa abbreviated, for little haba pa rin, came out with a resolution recommending that the state of calamity be declared over the affected areas, and this would include Region 4B, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 13. Yun pinirma ko. The declaration of the state of calamity will hasten the rescue and relief and rehabilitation efforts of the government and the private sector, including saan galing tulong, be it outside or tayo-tayo lang. This will also be an effective mechanism to control the prices of goods and commodities in the areas. Let us listen to the report and updates of Yusik Rick Halad, Administrator of the Office of Civil Defense, regarding Typhoon Odette. Rick, can you give us a...
Kami, Mr. Mayor, may gabi sa itong mga cabinet secretaries o mga kababayan. So I'll be rendering a report of the effects of updated effects of Typhoon Odette and as well as our response. Next slide, please.
Rick, yan, mahina yung ano. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
We can
Sorry,
see
sir.
it now.
Okay, we monitored 75 flooded areas and 13 other related incidents, sir, like storm surge and the like. Next slide, please. I am sorry to present this, Mr. President. You're right in our first meeting that when you express your worry of a possible mounting of deaths, but then I only reported 12 deaths. But as of the latest report, Mr. Mayor, we now have 156 dead, 37 missing, and 275 injured caused by Typhoon Odette. And shown are the other effects. Initial report of damaged houses, 6,000 plus. 24 damaged infrastructure, initial pa rin yan, Mr. Mayor. costing 225 million. Damage to agriculture, initial report is about 6,893 hectares of crops, and as well as related damages to agriculture as shown, totaling about 162 million. Affected families, 304,000. And or more than 1 million of individuals. And displaced 481,000 individuals. Next slide, please. This is the breakdown of our casualties. The most number of dead came from Bohol, followed by Cebu and Negros Oriental. Missing 37 and injured 275. The most common circumstances of deaths are drowning by flood, incidents at sea, being hit by fallen tree, and as well as due to flying debris and collapsed structure. And there were also deaths due to landslide.
Excuse me, but
Yes, sir.
I have to ask this question. Saan itong this set to sail despite warning? Ito yung saan banda to?
Mga ano sir, kalat-kalat sir yan, yung mga pinagbawal ng lumayag, nag ano pa rin, mga maliliit na bangka sir. Wala namang malalaking bangka na disgrasya.
Nawala
There were
yung
also instances of yung mga kababayan natin na recover yung kanilang bangka kasi takot na mawala ng panganap buhay, and inabutan sila doon sa tabing dagat.
Sus Maria Josep. Well, okay.
Yes, sir. Next slide, please. And I have already presented this, Mr. President. I will no longer present this, our preparedness of the NDRMC regional level as well as local government units. Next slide, please. As part of our response, in order to provide emergency telecommunication services, the DICT, OCD, and DSWD deployed some satellite-based communication equipment. We deployed satellite dish or very small aperture terminal in Siargao. It is now providing data and voice communication. So may libreng tawag po doon, Mr. President. And as well as Wi-Fi, yung mga tao na lumalapit doon ay gamit ng Wi-Fi, nakaka-communicate sa kanilang kamag-anak, kaibigan. Meron din sa regional office ng OCD, that is being used as emergency operation center for the region. Meron din sa Maasin Leyte, emergency operation center ng local government units. The DICT deployed two vehicle mounted satellite and radio communications, mga communication van ito, Mr. Mayor, one in Leyte and one in Surigao City. And they also deployed VSAT team in Siargao and Dinagat. So somehow merong communications, telecommunication services, although very limited dahil limited yung radius na kanilang ma-serve in these areas. Next slide, please. These are some pictures of our emergency telecommunication services. As you can see in the upper left, andyan yung maliit nating satellite dish sa Siargao Airport. In the lower left, may nag-BTC yung emergency, yung operation center natin sa Campo Hidalgo with the local government unit of Siargao. And the other pictures, Smart and Globe also deployed some of their assets, providing libreng tawag and charging. Next slide, please. On logistics handling, Mr. President, we chartered one cargo Boeing 737 based in Clark, and it's now serving the logistical requirements of OCD, DSWD, DOH, and other departments, sending relief goods to the affected areas. The DSWD and World Food Program is also making use of their wing vans. We also make use of the sea assets of Philippine Coast Guard and Philippine Navy, and air assets of the Philippine Air Force. Next slide, please. These are the summary of logistics that we have forwarded. A total of 60,500 kilograms family food packs from DSWD sent to affected regions utilizing the Boeing cargo airplane. We also deployed 2 mobile storage units in Surigao City. This can be used as this is being used as temporary warehousing of supplies and relief goods delivered. We have a warehouse of the ASEAN in Camp Aguinaldo, and they also provided us some relief items which we have already shipped, Mr. President, to Visayas and Mindanao. And we provided some shelter repair materials magagamit ng ating mga kababayan pagpupunin ng kanilang mga sirang bahay. Other relief goods numbering about or totaling about 11,000 tons were also already shipped. Next slide, please. In compliance to the instruction of the President, these are the actions of the different departments. On the assessment of the extent of damages in the area and to address the concerns of the LGUs directed to DOE, DNR, DA, the ICT, and DSUD, the assessment is now ongoing. The initial report from DA is 333 million worth of agricultural damages. The ICT and OCD deployed communications equipment, and DSUD through the IOM to provide some construction materials or GI sheets to Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands. And we also sent tarpaulin sheets to Carga. To act as a crisis manager in Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands, directed to the Secretary of the DSWD with the support of OCD. And the DSWD and OCD is now overseeing the conduct of operations. And these are the items that, some of the items that we sent to the affected regions. Hygiene kits, malong, blankets, and surgical masks. The operations are still ongoing, Mr. Mayor. To use boats, ships, and all resources to deliver supplies, equipment, and goods directed to the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard. These are the assets that were already being used. The BRP Gabriela Silang, BRP Sindangan, and BRP San Agustin from the Philippine Coast Guard, and the vessels of the AFP, BRP Iwak and BRP Ibatan. Next slide, please. To send the BRP Ang Pangulo to the Dinagat Islands and Siargao to be used as floating hospital directed to the armed forces of the Philippines. The said ship departed from Manila to Siargao last December 19, and bringing a medical team as well as some relief goods facilitated by the AFP. To send needed medical supplies and augment the health personnel directed to DOH. The DOH mobilized medical trauma response team and health logistics to Surigao del Norte and Siargao as shown. To assess the seaworthiness of vessels in Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands, to add more mobility in the delivery of food and supplies directed to Marina. It has activated all its vessels to ferry relief goods, and the assessment is report will be reported soon. To clear the roads and provide the needed equipment of the LGUs directed to DPWH, it has so far cleared 10 road sections in Caraga, and they deployed 55 assets and 315 personnel augmentation, and released immediate response fund in the total amount of 100 billion to Region 6, 7, 8, 10, and 13. Next slide. To provide rice and water, construction materials for the reconstruction of damaged houses, and housing assistance with priority for the poor, and to provide shelter assistance directed to DSWD and the SUD. The DSWD provided 14.5 million worth of assistance to all affected areas with the support of NGOs and LGUs. And the SUD and NSA will conduct validation and evaluation for the provision of housing assistance. Key shelter corporations determine short-term and long-term intervention. To provide more funds for typhoon response and recovery, DBM and all agencies, it's now being worked out tonight, Mr. President, after your instruction to be given a while ago. I talked to my director, and they are now working on it. They will come up with an estimate of allocation for all LGUs affected, as well as an estimate of damages from infrastructures, agriculture, schools, and the like, with a recommendation for the release to these LGUs and national government agencies. To immediately provide 15 horsepower generators for water refilling system. And the Office of Civil Defense is now coordinating with all concerned agencies to pool resources. On our end, Mr. President, we are deploying some of our generators, 15 horsepower generators in the inventory. The priorities in the next months is reconstruction and repair of infrastructure damages. And there are concerned agencies for this. The NDRRMC will conduct post-disaster needs assessment. It was one of the agreement reached in yesterday's meeting of the full council. But for the immediate reconstruction needs, concerned agencies can use their quick response fund, and maybe those who request can be given augmentation of their QRF so that they can continue with their immediate reconstruction and repair activities. On additional AICS funding for DSWD, the said department is now considering it in their next activities. And on agricultural assistance to farmers and fisher folks, Department of Agriculture have 1.35 billion worth of readily available assistance. So the NDRRMC has activated its response cluster. It is actually the crisis management team that the President directed to be activated, to be led by DSWD. Actually, in the NDRMC, we called it the response cluster, also being led by DSWD with the support of Office of Civil Defense. So all of these activities to be given by concerned agencies like Department of Agriculture, DPWH, DSWD, NHA, and OCD are being coordinated within the crisis management team or response cluster being being headed by DSWD, and they are meeting daily on this, Mr. Mayor. Next slide, please. You already know this, that the NDRMC came up with a recommendation to declare a state of national calamity in these regions. And one of the recommendation also is for us to accept the offers of international assistance. There are already several countries initiating or offering their assistance to us, Mr. Mayor. And another agreement within the council meeting yesterday was the conduct of post-disaster needs assessment. It is now being planned by the NDRMC, and that will follow as soon as the current response will be slowing down. Therefore, our focus will proceed towards the full rehabilitation and recovery. Next slide, please. So that's my update, Mr. Mayor, on the effects of Typhoon Odette, as well as our current response in the Philippine government.
Thank you.
Connection to Typhoon Odette. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yun ang report ng ating Undersecretary Halad sa Disaster Office, or I don't know how to call that. Sila yung una, yung unang dumadating sa kung may disaster, calamity. Sila yan. Napunta ako ng I cannot now count the landing and take-off of the helicopters, but I've been to Leyte, Maasin, Bohol, Cebu. Then I visited Negros Oriental. Occidental ba yun? Negros Occidental. Bukas may dalawa pa akong puntahan para at makita lang ninyo. You have the clip so that they can see what we recorded while flying over areas of destruction.
Vaccine Nation. Mahalagang impormasyon ukol sa COVID-19 booster shot. Ang COVID-19 booster shot ay karagdagang dose na ibinibigay matapos bumaba ang proteksyon na dulot ng unang bakuna o vaccine series sa paglipas ng panahon. Sa mga nakakuha ng primary dose na Sinovac, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna at Sputnik, ang booster shot ay maaaring tanggapin at least 6 na buwan matapos makuha ang second dose. Habang at least 3 months naman ang pagitan para sa mga taong tumanggap ng Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Ang booster shot ay